This is Mark Bell from supertraining.tv, Super Training Gym, the strongest gym in the West, answering more questions today for the Power Project. We got a question from Idiot off the YouTubes. Idiot6969 wants to know, he has a question about knee pain. And he wants to know, he changed his technique up slightly and he's wondering why he no longer has any knee pain. Before I speak about that, let me just tell you that if you are experiencing knee pain, there's a couple easy fixes for it, a couple easy things you can do to mask it and to train through it for a little while until it starts to feel better. The first thing that you can do is you can do box squats. And a box squat done properly shouldn't put a whole lot of stress on your knee unless you already have an existing problem in your kneecap. So that would be something to consider. Also, throwing on a knee wrap could be very useful. And the knee wraps that I sell from howmuchyoubench.net, the multi-purpose wrap, the longer wrap, the 42-inch wrap, is something that you can conveniently slide on. You can wrap it up in between your sets. You can loosen it up, loosen up the Velcro a little bit, and then when you're ready to go, you can tighten it back up again. So there's two easy fixes to knee pain. There's a lot of other things. The knee can be pretty complicated sometimes, and you might have to troubleshoot a little bit. But some box squatting, especially in the case of a high box squat, at least you're doing some squatting. At least you're not skipping the movement altogether. And then also a multi-purpose wrap, 42-inch wrap from howmuchyoubench.net. Now his question is, he used to kick his butt way back to initiate the squat, and then he would squat down and he would force his knees out and he'd come back up, and that's when he was experiencing knee pain. Now he says he basically forces his knees out and just kind of squats straight down, drops his body through his legs, and that, in my opinion, is the way that you should squat. It's just that it can oftentimes be very difficult to squat like that. So the reason for his knee pain is because when he was squatting, by forcing his hips back first, he was creating a longer distance between where his kneecap was and where his hips were. If you can kind of look at my knuckle here, we'll say this part of my knuckle is the hip, and we'll say this part here is the kneecap, or I'm sorry, this it's hard to do by myself. The upper part of the knuckle there, that part is the hip, and this part here is the kneecap. And so if he's forcing his butt back and squatting downward, he's going to end up looking like that, where he's got a longer femur. That's the thigh right there. He's got a longer quad, right? But now he's forcing the knee outward more, so now he's like that. And now there's much less pressure on that kneecap, and he's putting stress and he's creating torque and creating tension off of his hips, and he's also creating torque and tension off the groin muscles and the glutes and so forth. Creating torque is an essential part of the squat. A lot of people think that they need to have their feet pointed way out. I call it having your feet ducked out, where your feet are at this extreme angle and they're pointed outward this way. You actually don't want that. Some people say, well, I have trouble getting depth that way. Well, of course you do, because you're creating when your foot is straighter, you're creating more torque, and you want as much torque and as much tension as you can possibly get. So now there are some people who, when they squat with their foot too straight, they experience some knee pain because they're unable to force their knee out successfully. They're unable to get in the same positions because they have a lack of range of motion through their ankles, Achilles tendon, and so forth. But in my opinion, I think that you should train with your feet straight ahead as much as you can handle. Feet straight ahead and wide, especially if you're a multiply lifter and a guy who's doing box squats. That's going to train the hips up the most. Now you do want to be careful. You don't want to force anything that's not there. You don't want to hurt yourself. But in my opinion, that's the best way, fastest way, most efficient way to build up those hips. One more thing I'll say about the way that you should be initiating your squat. I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there on how to squat, and I'll say this. Most of us, most athletes, any good athlete, or most good athletes, you look at all the sprinters that you see in the Olympics, they got a huge ass. They got a huge butt. They have their hips are rotated this way. This is their booty back here, and this is their like belly button, right? Their hips, their gut, their belt line is pointed towards the ground. Now, if you're built like that, there is no reason at all for you to sit back a ton in your squat, especially to initiate the lift. You're already built that way. You're already walking around that way 24 hours a day. So what I would say, and I know this is blasphemous and some people are going to get very upset and sad and go eat ice cream and cry, but what you want to do is you want to initiate the squat from your knees. And I know a lot of people get a little freaked out about that, but that's what you're going to want to do. Initiate the squat a little bit from the knees, force the knees out, and like I said earlier, drop your upper body down through your lower body. Now, if you're built the opposite way, Stan Efferding's kind of built this way. He's got, he walks around like a duck. His feet are pointed way out. He's got a flat booty, and his hips are the other way. His hips are more closed off. His hips are more straight ahead. So in his case, he actually wants to arch real hard, and he actually does want to kick his butt back a little bit. So try to make an assessment of yourself on which way you're built. If you can't determine that, just try to see what feels better. For most people, though, you're going to want to, for most people, I would say you're going to want to initiate the squat from the knees. Even you geared lifters out there, you might not believe me, but when you try it, you know, holy shit, this guy knows what he's talking about. So give it a shot. Everybody's different. I'm not always 100% right. But give it a try and see how it works for you. Initiate the squat from the knees, and then start to push back and really open up those knees. Really force the knees out. Whether you're a close stance squatter or a wide stance squatter, make sure you're forcing those knees out. It's very rare. It's not impossible, but it's pretty rare to see people that don't force their knees out. That are squatting big weights. Other than one of the few people I have seen who does this is Eric Lillibridge. But Eric Lillibridge has enormous thighs, and he kind of developed a little bit of his own style of squatting, where he kind of squishes down upon himself and throws himself back up. He also has a very strong lower back. The guy's deadlifting 850 pounds. But in most cases, you're going to want to try to shove those knees out and try to create as much torque through those hips as you can. And that is it from supertraining.tv.